Yeah, so we're continuing with Sefer Mareh Yaakov,
Your brother's not
and
listening. Okay, good.
his brother's not listening right now, but I'm sure he'll be listening very soon, and that's on tape. In any case, we're going to continue with the Sefer Mareh Yaakov, and as each week we try to bring a little snippet from the Parsha that we just read, and this week we read Balak. And the first Aliyah talked about Balak being cajoled and talked to by the officers of Bilam, and
the opposite.
Bilam being talked to and cajoled by the officers of Balak.
Yeah.
And the second Aliyah starts with Bilam having decided that he's going to go. And what do we get? Vayakom Bilam Baboker. He gets up in the morning, and Rashi tells us a very interesting midrash about this line. He dresses up his puts the saddle onto his donkey. Rashi tells us Mikan Shehasina Mekalkel et Ashura. When you hate so much, it can change your behavior. It can make you not do the things that you would normally do. So Bilam is normally a very proud person, and he wouldn't be somebody who normally would saddle his own donkey. So quite obviously, the fact that it mentions that he did it, he had to have been doing it for a reason. Shechavashu Batzmo, that he did it by himself. He did it in order to try and say that he was obviously going to follow God's word, that he was allowed to go, he was going to take that interpretation, and he was going to show that he was even more righteous than the people of Israel, that God had given him permission, and he got up early, he denigrated himself in order to follow everything that God had said. And what does Rashi tell us? Amar Kadosh Baruch Hu, Rasha, Kfar Kadmacha Avraham Avinu, Avihem. He calls Bilam out. He says, "You're evil. Abraham already did this, and he got up earlier than you. He got up in order to make the word of God something that was important, and you're getting up early in order to self-aggrandize yourself." So now we're going to go through Vayakom Bilam Baboker. So we had the first Aliyah where he was being cajoled and wined and dined and told all of this is going to come to you and more important officers. And then he makes a decision to go forward. So what note do we expect Vayakom to have? It's going to roll everything that came from before, and then it's going to narrow it and push it into the decision and the going forward. So what note do we have? We have a mapach. We're going to fold everything in that came from before, and then we're going to narrow it, push it forward to what's going to come afterwards. Bilam, his name, so we want to focus on his name. We want to emphasize him, that it was his decision, that it's his actions that we're doing. So, again, small focus on his name, Parshat. Parshat says we're talking about him, but it's going to lead on to what's going to come on, and he's going to do something duplicitous. He's going to pretend to be a good guy but be a bad guy. So what note are we going to get for Baboker? A katzon. Vayakom Bilam Baboker, Mapach Pashta Katzon. And now we learn a little more because the notes are there. They tell us the midrash that Rashi already quoted for us, just by having that katon on Baboker. Because otherwise, what's doubled it? If we don't know the midrash, we wouldn't understand why Baboker had a katon. That Rashi brings forward.
That says what?
That says that he got up early in order to try to embarrass the Jewish people, but God called him out on it.
What do you mean to embarrass the Jewish people? To curse them?
He wanted to say he was being righteous by getting up, denigrating himself, and dressing the donkey by himself.
He didn't get up early enough.
But he didn't get up with the right intention.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So
he's
gonna,
a duplicitous guy, like pretending he's a tzaddik and then right.
So if you remember last week we talked, well we're going to get to the page in just a second, we talked about the character of the notes, that some of them are mishartim, some of them are notes that continue the flow of the sentence and lead into the next word, and some of them are melachim, and that's a broad category, and next week we'll try and break that category down again, but there are some notes that stop or pause the flow for a shorter or longer period of time. And so what I've got for everybody today is yet another table that divides all of the notes into the ones that are stopping and the ones that continue. Cool. And we'll scan that in, and everybody will have this as yet another reference sheet just to get the concept there.
Jeff, may I humbly suggest that Sue's away and she'd really appreciate it. Maybe we'll postpone this piece till next week.
Yeah, no. So that's all we're going to do about that is just introduce this chart, so as perhaps a more convenient way of viewing it compared to what I gave you last week.
Hivanti. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think this is a chart. This is a chart?
This is all of the notes,
right.
And you'll notice some of them are bold words, and some of them are sort of shaded words. And shaded words are all of those words that serve the others, and therefore you continue the flow of the sentence after them. They lead into something else. And the bold words are words that stop it to a greater or lesser degree the flow of the sentence. And we are going to continue where we left off, which is, so you remember page 53, yeah?
That's what I had, yeah.
53, the section for Noach, Breshit Chet, the 8th chapter, the 9th verse. V'lo matzah, and not it found, with a tlishak tana. Tlishak tana, we'll remember, always has its place at the end of the word, and always takes you back to what happened before. It's always a backwards looking note, and it has no pause after it. It continues into the flow of the text after it.
So it looks like it's frontwards.
It's pointing, the tail is pointing backwards. It's always looking back at what happened from before. The pigeon searched intensively for ground, and not had found it anywhere to be suitable for living, as indicated by the shape and placement of the reading mark in relationship with and of the previous sentence. So why is he saying in relationship with the previous sentence? Because Klishak Tana, that's looking backwards to what's come before, and we'll remember from before that he's chosen this as a messenger. He's given it a new set of instructions that it has to fly high and literally get a bird's eye view of the land, and this was a cooperative venture, and the Yonah was agreeable to do it the way that Noah had told him to do it.
Is this pushing it too far? Like the shot looks sort of like the bird's head with a little tail.
It's like a Q.
Like a what?
So, Q. What a Q.
Yeah, but I'm saying...
But when you say, what's it looking back to? I'm sorry.
It's looking back to the previous sentence. So it's looking back to the phrase or the words that come before it, because it's coming at the beginning of a sentence. It has to look back to the previous sentence.
We sort of have to remind ourselves.
So it's talking that even though it fulfilled its task of looking in the more successful type of way, it still didn't find anything. So it had been given new orders, and we saw that based on the last sentence. Rather than flying straight out along the water, it was supposed to fly up and look from a height, so that it could scout a lot more territory more effectively. And in this way, Noah could always keep his eye on it as well and know what was going on. So it gave information in a constant basis flowing back to him. Versus the Orev, which flew out straight over the water, looked for dead bodies to scavenge on, and Noah didn't get any information until the bird came back. And the bird, in fact, stubbornly refused to come back.
So what is a Tlisha? You said
So
points to something that from before.
So Tlisha Ktana
Yeah, Tlisha Ktana.
is a Masharet, so it's continuing on to the next sentence, to the next phrase, and it specifically is always written at the end of the word, and it has the tail which looks backwards, so that it's always telling you that we're focusing on the previous and rolling that into the meaning of whatever this word is. So we're rolling the previous sentence. It's following its orders, it's flying high, and even then it didn't find anything. And that even then wouldn't be there.
I just want to know the nature of Tlisha, because right, I see what you're saying.
No, I'm just saying that's there for a reason.
But I know, but is it like horoscope where you could, you tend to overprint? Like, is there another in that page that also does what Tlisha does? Like a mapach also has that takes in from before. And
so a mapach is going to focus you onto a decision, or focus you onto something that is going to go to a new paradigm. This is not necessarily going to go to a new paradigm. It's going to flow. It's going to flow more organically into the thing that's next to it. So there is overlap in that there are mishartim and malachim. So there are really only two basic categories. So there has to be some overlap, because either it's connected or it's disconnected. So that's number one. To say that there isn't going to be overlap is ridiculous, because we've divided all the notes into two categories. So there has to be organically some overlap. However, the features of the softness of connection, or the sharpness of connection, and the sharpness of continuation, or the lack of continuation, is graded based on the different notes.
Okay, so maybe as an exercise, just let's say this had a mapach under, right? How would we translate?
So if it had a mapach, so we'll start with a mapach. If it had a mapach on it, we would say that we would sharply come to something different afterwards. So we would fold in from the previous, but the situation would look different afterwards.
Now
right?
To the
so let's just go on to hayona, to the next word. So hayona, the second word, the pigeon, has a pashta. So this is going to slightly emphasize the word. The pigeon did not spare its wings to reach great distances and height to discover a flat spot of land by a bird's eye view, but the waters were prevalent endlessly, as denoted by the directional shape of the reading mark. So it's focusing you on the animal, but it's still continuing the same task. So if we had a mapach before, we would expect something new and different afterwards. We'd expect the task to be focused or narrowed or changed in some way, because we had the lens of the mapach to say that we had many paths, and now we've chosen one. So, do you understand that a mapach would have given us a little bit of a different expression of what the Yonah was doing afterwards? It really would have made one choice, but we're saying that the Yonah is still going to complete the same task afterwards. So a mapach would not have been appropriate for this, because it's still doing the same thing that it was doing before.
Whereas after not matzahing?
It's not finding, and it's still doing the same thing. A mapach would have said, it's not finding, and then it did something else. And then it made one choice. So that would have been what a mapach would have told us. Now let's go to a tipcha. A tipcha would have folded in what came from before, and then stopped. The lo matzah, tipcha has a pause after it, so it would say that it continued on its task from before, didn't find anything. And then the Yonah is a little bit separated from the tipcha, because Yonah is tipcha is a melech, and it has a pause after it. So the Yonah and the next phrase would not have been connected to this. So again, that note doesn't organically describe what's going on here. Yes or no? You're shaking your head.
I'm shaking because
So-
I
so
still
do-
can't get that. Like, because I know the pasuk, "V'lo matzah hayanam Noach." Like, but you're saying that this whole period. I know I'm asking these questions over and over, but it hasn't hit me yet. So like the rain in Spain, fine, till she gets it, finally, is that.
But
Because we know from the pasuk. I mean, it's nice to take every word separately with a note, but at the same time, we can't divorce ourselves that it does say "V'lo matzah hayanam Noach." So we know that by reading the pasuk, we didn't find a resting place. So
Okay.
right, so how does that sort of jive or gel with the fact that we're breaking it up and looking at every word separate? Because it's a catch-22 sort of. You know what I mean?
no, you've got to rephrase yourself. We're saying that the notes were given Torah Lamoshe Misinai. The notes in and of themselves are telling you something that isn't there if you didn't have the notes.
It's like a drush.
So
I know, but
exactly.
Right,
It's a tool for a drush.
okay, but I just want to jive that with our concept that you can't. It's very nice to do drush and sod and the other one, but you can't get away from the pshat also at the same time.
And
So just
the,
reconcile
the
those
sentence
two sort of.
the sentence structure is divided into the pshat because of the pauses that the notes introduce. So it gives us the pshat, but by the way, there's also a drush and a sod here. There's also something secret that's being told to us that we wouldn't have known otherwise.
So the notes are never the pshat, right? Is that or
No,
they are? Or,
no.
Or they are
So
also.
the notes define the pshat by the pauses, by telling us where the commas and the periods are.
Okay.
However, this perush is not focusing on pshat. This perush is focusing on the drush and the sod that is inherent in the notes. So it's saying
But
separate
you're
from.
contradicting yourself.
No.
Because the notes make the
Alan,
pshat.
listen.
I am listening. Yeah.
The notes define the pshat.
What does
When
that
you
mean?
read the
Yeah.
sentence and it tells you to pause there, that means
Not just a next sentence,
that means
right? Not just
that means at any melech. That means that's where the pshat tells you to pause. Shichet lo banav mumam.
Okay, yeah,
They
well, that's hard,
they sinned to him. Are they not his sons? Or shichet lo. They sinned not to him. They sinned to another guy. No. Wait,
Right.
Alan, listen to me.
I'm listening. In front of everyone, you have to scream at me. That's why I hate this thing. Okay.
You can erase that part of the tape.
You
if
have to
you
say
want.
Alan. No,
Really,
we're not even- yeah.
Alan. So what we're doing here is we're trying to tell you what this parish does.
Yeah.
You're asking me what the notes do. The notes have more than one function.
Okay.
Everything in Torah has more than one function. Every vowel has more than one function. Every word has more than one function. Ayin panim l'Torah.
Right.
So you've got the concept that there is depth in everything that's there.
Right.
The flow of the notes defines the pshat. Shichet lo, mercha tevir. Tevir has a pause. So they sinned to him, comma. Lo banav mumam. They're not his. They're certainly not his sons. Not shichet lo. They sinned to somebody else. But by the way, I'm sure there's a drush that talks about shichet lo. So that's why it's there. It's there that you can learn something else from it. But if you want to know the pshat, the pauses in the notes define the pshat.
Right.
This parish doesn't deal with pshat. We know the pshat. V'lo matzah Noach lekaf raglah. We know that. We can read that.
Right.
We can learn that somewhere else. We're not learning pshat here. We're learning the concept that each note was given Torah Lamoshe Misinai. All of the people who talk about where the notes came say that the notes came at the same time that the words and the letters and all of those little dots and all of the tagim and all of the everything that came directly from God. And if it came directly from God, it's got a meaning.
Right.
And what we're trying to do is we're trying to assign the meaning to each of these notes that was given. So if we were given these notes, then they must have some importance, and we have to pause and say, what's special about the note that was given on top of that word? Why was it that note, not something else? It must be telling us something else. There's got to be a level that that note is telling us. So each phrase, 1 or 2 or 3 word group that has a note on it, there must be something special about that, and that's what we're defining here. That's the task of this parish, is to take each of those phrases and say, it has its own note, therefore it has its own importance. And we have to build that importance based on the concepts that each note symbolizes. Does that give you a little clarity, or do I need to try and rephrase it another way?
For now, I guess so.
So for now, what we're doing is we're not doing pshat. We're doing drash sod. And this is the drash sod that's related to each note, and each note has a particular formula that tells us whether it's a pause, how intimately or distantly it's connected to what's before, how intimately or distantly it's connected to what's afterwards, and whether it is focusing on the word or whether it's de-emphasizing the word and talking more about its connection. So we saw that if we took the Tlisha Ktana off of that first phrase and replaced it with another note that looked backwards to the previous pasuk, with either a mapach or a tipcha, then it wouldn't give us the same meaning that the Tlisha Ktana gives us. That it's focused on looking backwards, but it's still flowing without any decision or definition into what comes after it.
It's open.
So it's open-ended. It's still doing the same thing afterwards.
But the bird is doing the same thing, or what's doing the same thing?
So because each note is associated with a word or a word phrase, then yes, whatever the word phrase is talking about would have to continue its task afterwards, in an open sense, after Tlisha Ktana.
Okay, so just apply that more. So the lo matzah is referring to something that came before, like it has in common with other ones.
Telling you that you got to look back to either the previous phase, or in this case, because it's the beginning pasuk, you got to look back to the previous pasuk.
Okay,
so it's going to take the new set of instructions that Noah gave to the Onah that he didn't give to the Orev, and it's saying that despite that, it didn't find anything, and it went on looking like it was looking before. Hayonah with a kadma, with a pashta. So we're focusing on the bird. Manoach, number 3, arrest, with the azla. Azla takes us back to the word that was before, and is a melech, is something that pauses afterwards. Although the pigeon arrived in remote areas, it could not find a dry spot of land to get a rest after prolonged flying, as stressed by the directional shape of the reading mark. So the rest is looking backwards at the Onah, and it's saying that task was not achieved. Stop.
Which task?
The task of finding dry land.
The task of finding dry land was not
Lo
finished.
matzah, hayana, manoach, pause, lekaf ragla. So, even though when you're reading the phrase, you would think that manoach lekaf ragla sort of goes together. A resting place for its foot should be read together. We see here that the note has an azla, so we got to stop there. And then lekaf ragla, the next phrase, number 4, has a rivi'i because it's got a melech.
Right, and that stops.
It has a king noted as the azla. The note that's on top of manoach is going to tell us that. We're stopping there.
So,
and then lekaf ragla has a rivi'i. The rivi'i stands by itself and emphasizes that word. So that's going to be something that's going to be, again, separate from Manoach a little bit, which is something that we wouldn't have known without the pauses introduced by the notes. The Revi'i is something that stands by itself and emphasizes the word and then pauses again after it. Not only could a sizable area of dry land not be found, but even a small spot for the bole of its leg to stand on was unavailable, as shown by the broad meaning of the related reading mark. So we're saying, not only couldn't it find a resting place, it couldn't even find a place as small as its leg.
Like a resting place for the ark and the people in it.
So that ability to phrase it, not only could it not find a place, it couldn't even find a small place. So it couldn't even find a small place with that type of emphasis on it. We only get with the Revi'i after the Azla. That tells us, it couldn't find a place. Even a small little place it couldn't find. But you understand? We've introduced emotion, or we've introduced emphasis by that phraseology. The fact that there's an Azla, pause, Revi'i. And when you would read this, you wouldn't get that sense. Manoch lekaf ragla should fit together. A resting place for its foot.
To me, that does the same thing.
No, it didn't find a resting place, not even a place where it could put its foot.
Well, I could learn that from the kaf. Otherwise, it says lo yamot manoach. The fact that it says lekaf ragla.
Listen to the two ways that I'm saying this. It didn't find a resting place for its foot. It didn't find a resting place, not even for its foot.
Because it's
that way of introducing the emphasis and the emotion into it is there because the notes have those pauses in them and that emphasis in them.
Noah's mission for the Yonah was not to find a place for it to rest its foot. Noah's mission for the Yonah was to find a place for the ark and its people and its inhabitants to find a place. And so, as Jeff is pointing out, the way that the notes are given emphasize the fact not only was there not enough dry land for the teva, not even for its own little foot was there room.
Right.
So it introduces something new because of the note.
Now, what did Manoach add?
What does Manoach add?
Like, let's say just if it's
Manoach closes off what the Yonah was looking for. So it looks back towards completes the kadma, and then it stops there. Didn't find a resting place. Its task was to find, as Vic said, a resting place for everybody. Mm-hmm. It didn't find a resting place, not even for itself.
We do that in a lot of phrases. When you're speaking to someone. It was huge. It was so huge it didn't fit into the room. We do that in common English.
Yeah.
So this is all they're doing. That's all that little phrase does, is it's emphasizing.
The phrase, the note.
Yeah.
The note turning it into an emphatic phrase, I guess, is how I'm visualizing what you're trying to say.
I'm saying
the note, the pause, the emphasis.
The note.
The pause before and after, and the fact that it's an emphatic.
I said stop.
Vatashoven, it returned, number 5. The condition was, so this is a mapach, so this is going to fold in what we had before and then focus it narrowly onto what's going to go afterwards. The condition was evaluated by accurate observation of the pigeon, and it returned to deliver its report to Noach as suggested by the shape of the reading mark. So it's going to come back and take all of this information that couldn't find a place for everybody, not even for itself, and now he's going to do something else. Elav, to him. So Mapach is going to take it and then focus it onto a narrower path, onto one choice afterwards. Elav, it came back to him. After locating the ark, the pigeon called for Noach in order to deliver to him the awaited information as expressed by the directional shape of the reading mark. So, what Tashov is focusing on is the Yonah could have made many choices. It could have come back and reported to the other Yonah. It could have reported to all of the other animals. It made a choice. It came Elaf, just came to Noah because Noah had given it the task before, So it showed that it was being cooperative and doing what it was supposed to do. And
I guess all I'm asking is, like, how do...
we don't.
But even without the note, we would know that
Even
from
without the note, we wouldn't know that depth, that it had a task and it was fulfilling its task, and fulfilling its task meant that they had to report to Noah first. So this is adding more story that wasn't there before.
And it differentiates itself from the previous experience, right? Because the previous
So the Orev
the Orev
didn't return at all because it didn't want to give a report.
So it didn't show any loyalty to
Mhm.
Noah. Here he's showing loyalty and fealty to Noah.
Here
But
we're
I'm saying you would get that even just by
No, no,
having
no.
the word Elav.
No.
Otherwise it's like V'tashav.
The difference is a matter of degree. In other words,